Hello there, hope you're doing well. In this video, let's discuss some of the common sources of food contamination. Now, food contamination we've already seen in our previous videos is the presence of unwanted materials in food, which then makes that food unfit for human consumption, or in fact, it can even cause public health hazards. Contamination can happen anywhere in the supply chain. It could be from the raw materials, or it could be from the during the preparation of the food, or it could be during the the final food being served. At that time there can be contamination somewhere. We can have the contaminants getting in. So there are various sources for contamination. These sources occur due to either cross contamination, which means from one contaminated source into the food they are entering through a non-food source. So that is one of the most common ones, usually due to the kitchen equipment that we use, or due to the people who are handling the food. There can be cross contamination. Or like I said, it can be even in the raw material. When you use poor quality ingredients or low quality ingredients, that can itself have a lot of contaminants in it. So that can be a source of contamination. Or it can come due to poor food hygiene of the food handler, of the person who's cooking, of the person who's serving, of anybody who's working in the kitchen. Even if they don't come in direct contact with the food, if they are present in the kitchen area and they don't maintain food hygiene, then that can definitely cause contamination of food. And finally, the improper storage. Everyone who has prepared the food might have done it perfectly, but then if it is not stored in the right way, then that can be a cause for contamination. Now, there are different sources for contamination. We'll pick up each source one by one. The first food contamination source is the food product itself. So the food product is something which may naturally have certain microorganisms in it, certain contaminants in it. It could be the physical, it could be the chemical, it could be the biological contaminants, but these contaminants, or the allergenic ones, these contaminants are already present in the food. They may enter either because the food is of an animal origin, so it is present in the animal meat, or it can enter from the soil. If you're growing vegetables and say for example root vegetables have a lot of soil stuck around them, maybe those have contaminants, and without washing you cook the food, so they can be present in the food product itself. One example of this is the milk, which gets contaminated either from the udder of the cow, or from the milking equipment, or it could be from the water that is being used to wash the vessels, wash the cow. It could be from the soil that is there nearby. It could be from the hide or the skin of the animal. So there are several ways in which a milk sample that is being collected can get contaminated. When we talk about raw meat and poultry, raw meat, or we know that the intestine of animals is laden with bacteria which can cause food poisoning, for example salmonella or campylobacter. Now these can enter the raw meat. The muscle part, which is usually free of organisms, can get contaminated when during the slaughtering, if there is proper hygiene not being followed, then from the intestines, from the skin of the animal, from the hair of the animal, from the foot of the animal, we can have organisms or contaminants entering into the meat that we are finally using for cooking. We can have the manure which the animals eat being contaminated. So the manure itself may be contaminated, or there may be dirt in the feet of the animals. So from all of these places, the feathers of the bird, from there you can have contaminants entering into the food. In case of seafood, the main problem with seafood is that they're frequently stored for a long period of time without refrigeration. So the contamination is occurring during the harvesting, during the processing, as well as the distribution. Now, this is the first source of contamination, which is in the food product itself, and that's why it is told that we need to keep the foods separately so that no cross contamination occurs. How do you prevent cross contamination? Even if the uncooked food is having contaminants in it, you don't let it come in contact with the cooked food in which all the contaminants have been killed. So the first source of contamination is the food product. Now let's look at the second source of contamination, which is the food handlers. This is the largest source of food contamination. Why is that? It's because the human body has a lot of contaminants, organisms on the body, as well as there are organisms inside the human body as well. So when a food handler is having an open cut, he or she is having a wound, a boil. Not only that, apart from that, if they are having respiratory tract infections, gastrointestinal tract infections, so they can be carriers of a pathogen. Carriers could be a healthy carrier where they don't show any symptoms, or the person might have had the infection a week ago or 10 days ago and they have recently recovered from the infection. Now, what happens in such people who have recently recovered is that they don't show any symptoms. However, they still have the organism within them, or even if they show mild symptoms, they still have the organisms in their body. And if such a person, if such a food handler does not follow proper food personal hygiene, if say for example, if they visit the toilet but they don't wash their hands, then from their hands these pathogens, these disease causing organisms can enter into the food. Not only that, even on the body surface, people do carry a lot of commensal flora, that is normal flora, flora in our hair, nose, throat, mouth, hands. These do not cause infection to us normally, but then if they enter in large numbers through the gastrointestinal tract, there are chances that it can cause infection. So food handlers are the major source of food contamination worldwide. When we see the third source of contamination, it is from the water and the air. Water which is used for cleaning, or water which is used as an ingredient, both. Either way, it should be clean, it should be free of contaminants, otherwise you are directly introducing it into the food. When we say the air, it basically talks about the surroundings. If the food is being cooked in unclean surroundings, or if it is being stored in unclean surroundings, then from the air you can have a lot of contaminants entering into the food. So this could be during the air that is there during the processing, packaging, even during storage, in the preparation area. Entire process of the food, from the raw ingredients, from the raw material till the final selling of the product, it has to be done in clean surroundings. The fourth source of contamination is from the dust and refuse. So soil and dust have a large number of spores. We have already spoken about them in the other videos. So they have a large number of spores of bacteria or even fungi. Now these can be, they can act as contaminants into the food if the kitchen or the storage area is not being cleaned properly, or as you can see over here in this cartoon, during the cleaning, if there's any uncovered food, then that means you are introducing the dust into the food and there are chances that the contaminants get in. Also on the vegetables and the fruits, or even from the waste, that is the refuse. If there's waste food in the trash can and if you don't empty it out often, what happens is the organisms, microorganisms, keep growing over there. That can act as a contaminant in the food. The last source of contamination is from the insects and rodents. Now insects and rodents, or even pets for that matter, they carry a lot of organisms on them, in their fur, in their feet, in their gastrointestinal tract, on their body. Everywhere you have a lot of contaminants, a lot of microorganisms. So if such pests lick the food, or even if they partially eat the food, then they are introducing the microorganisms into the food, and that can act as a major source of infection. So even bird droppings for that matter, or flies and cockroaches, whenever they are coming in contact with the food, the problem is that these insects are also present on the wastes, they are present near the fecal matter, they are present in the toilets. So they can carry a lot of pathogens to the food and thus cause contamination of the food. So these were the different sources of contamination: the food itself, the food handlers, the water and air, basically the surroundings which should be free of dust and refuse, and finally the surroundings should be free of any kind of pests, insects and rodents which can carry the microorganisms into the food. I hope this video was useful to all of you. Hope to see you all in the next one as well. Bye.